Hello friends, welcome to my channel Mukesh English. This is Mukesh Soni. Friends, in this video, I'm going to provide you all the 7 lessons summary. And those 7 lessons are related to the first semester B.Sc General English syllabus under Bangalore City University. So first semester B.Sc students, in this video, you'll get all the 7 lessons summary in at one place in one single video. You need not watch the multiple videos about all those 7 lessons. In single video you are getting all the 7 lessons summary. So before that, let's know about those 7 lessons. You have those 7 lessons in the syllabus: telephone conversation, poem, ode to our ocean, another poem, a horse and two gods, story, Jenks whiskers, it's a story, the model millionaire, it's also a story, on habits, it's an essay, we should all be feminist, it's a speech. So those 7 lessons I'm going to cover in this video. And you also have the grammar, and I already done the grammars video. You can see the grammar videos link in the description. So without much delay, let's begin it. The lesson number 1, it's a poem titled Telephone Conversation by Wole Soyinka. And Wole Soyinka is a famous Nigerian poet and playwright. So let's know about this poem. This poem is about a conversation between a black man and a white landlady. So, black man is the speaker here. The speaker calls her to ask about renting a house. At first, the landlady sounds very polite and very professional, but the moment she comes to know that he's an African, he's black, she starts asking many uncomfortable questions about his skin color. Instead of getting angry, the speaker uses the humor and sarcasm to answer her questions. He describes his skin in a very funny and very exaggerated manner, making fun of her obsession with his color. So the conversation shows how racism can make everyday situations awkward and unfair. So we are going to summarize the story here, the poem here. So how does the telephonic conversation begins here? The speaker calls the landlady to inquire about renting a house. She seems nice at the very beginning. She speaks very politely. Later, she asks, "Are you dark or very light?" This question is very hurtful because it shows that she cares more about his skin color than who he is as a person. So, what's the reaction of the speaker? So, instead of getting angry, the speaker responds with humor. For example, when she asks about his color, the speaker jokes. He says, "You mean like plain or milk chocolate?" He even describes his palms as peroxide blonde, which is very light color, to mock her ridiculous questions. After the speaker's witty responses, the landlady becomes silent, confused, or upset. This silence shows her discomfort and highlights how wrong her questions were. The poem talks about racism and how people judge others based on their skin color. It also shows how someone can use humor and cleverness to deal with such unfair treatment. The speaker refuses to let the landlady's prejudice make him feel small. In spite of that, despite this, he showed his strength and dignity. So, what do we understand from this poem here? From the poem Telephone Conversation, which is very simple, powerful poem, which teaches us how racism affects everyday life. It also encourages us to laugh at the ignorance of prejudice and reminds us to treat everyone with respect, no matter their color. So, this is about the poem Telephone Conversation. Now, we are moving to the lesson number 2. So, I'm going to provide you the summary because it's a one capsule video which will give you all the 7 lessons summary at one place. Lesson number 2 is an ode to our ocean by Amanda S.C. Gorman. So, who is Amanda S.C. Gorman? She's a famous American poet and activist. What is ode exactly? Ode is a lyrical poem which is written for the appreciation of any person, event, object, or any concept. So, Ode to Our Ocean by Amanda Gorman is a very powerful poem which celebrates the ocean, also reflecting on its beauty, resilience, and the urgency of protecting the ocean. The poem serves as a call to action, urging the society to recognize the importance of preserving the ocean's health for future generations. So, in the very first stanza, the poet says, the sea sings out to its many saviors, teenagers who with fist thirst into the air at climate strikes, scientists converging around the data, a child who stoops to scoop up a piece of trash. So, what does the poet say here? I'm sorry, just a minute. Yeah. The poet says the sea is calling out for help from the people who care. For example, teenagers who protest for climate change, scientists who work hard on the solutions, even the kids who pick up the trash. So these are the saviors of the ocean. So the ocean is calling those people to save to save the ocean. In the second stanza, the poet says, the sea sings out for its singular subjects, arcing whales that wave from the waves, turtles that teeter down the shining shores, coral reef shining brightly as cities. So the sea is also calling out for the creatures who are living in the sea, like whales, turtles, and coral reefs. The ocean describes those creatures in a very beautiful manner, showing how important they are. So the ocean is not only calling the human beings, ocean is also calling the creatures who are living in it to save, to preserve the ocean in the manner of song. The sea sings out its suffering, knowing too much of waste, screeching sounds, and pernicious poison, its depth bruised by atrocities in the Atlantic, misery in the Mediterranean, its tides the perceive its sorry its tides the preservers of time past. So what happens here? The sea is suffering from pollution, waste, poison. It has been hurt by human actions in different parts of the world, like the Atlantic Sea or Mediterranean oceans. Despite all this, the sea still remembers and preserves the past. Later, the poet says, the story of the ocean and the story of humanity are one and the same. A great river that knows no border and notes no lines, only ripples. The ocean and humanity's stories are deeply connected. The ocean doesn't have borders, neither does humanity have the border. We are all part of the same world, just like the ripples of the ocean, which has been spread everywhere. The poet further says, while we might call it the seven seas, today we sing out your true name, the one ocean. For no matter how we try to separate your waters, you are the colossus that connects us. Sorry, I'm sorry, just a minute, something's wrong. Yeah. Even though we call the oceans seven seas, so there's really one big ocean which is going to connect all of us. So the ocean unites us no matter how much we try to divide it. Water makes up 70% of Earth, 70% of the human heart, and 70% of the human being. All of us, bodies of water, for we to our oceans, or at least being bobbing in the same boat. So water makes up most of the earth and of our bodies. We know the 70% of the earth is covered by water, and even our body also requires water. We're all connected to the ocean because we are mostly made of water, just like the ocean. So directly, indirectly, we all are living in this ocean together. So that's our responsibility. That's the reason that it's a responsibility to save the ocean. To stand up for our ocean, is to stand up for our own ship. The sea is a restless, strong collective of many pieces. So are we. Standing up for the ocean is the same way as we are standing up for ourselves. The poet says, the ocean is strong and made up of many parts, just like we are made up. We are all part of the same effort to protect the environment. The ocean can recover, and so we will, or so will we. Let us not divide the tides, but discover all they have to teach us. Green meadows of sea grass that survive pathogens, blue-blooded marine snails that can fight off viruses. So, what does the poet say here? The ocean can recover. Similarly, we can also recover. So, there are many lessons which we need to learn from the ocean. For example, there are few plants and few animals. They survive even in the tough situations. So, we need to learn from nature to help us heal. There are more lessons to learn, still more work to be done, so we lift our faces to the sun. May the seas help us see healing and hope. May we sing out the ocean's survival and revival. So there's still more work to do to protect the ocean. We should stay hopeful and look to the ocean for guidance. We must help the ocean recover and sing out for its survival. And in the last stanza, the poet says, being the people of this blue planet is our most profound privilege and power. For if we be the ocean's saviors, then it is surely ours. So finally the poet says here, living on this planet with all its oceans is a great privilege. We are so lucky that we have oceans today. If we protect the ocean, we are also protecting ourselves. We are protecting humanity. The ocean belongs to all of us, and it's a responsibility to take care of our oceans. So, in this manner, this poem, Ode to Our Ocean, is a call to protect the ocean, and by doing so, we are protecting ourselves. It reminds us that the ocean and the humanity are deeply connected and that we have the power and responsibility to help the ocean heal. Through hope, action, and unity, we can save the ocean, and in turn, we can save our world. So now we are moving to the lesson number 3, A Horse and Two Gods, which is written by R.K. Narayan, the famous Indian writer who is well known for his collection of stories called Malgudi Days. So what is this story, A Horse and Two Gods, he referred to? This story was first published in the Indian newspaper The Hindu in 1960, A Horse and Two Gods, but it did not achieve any wide international audience till 1970. Later, the story became the title of R.K. Narayan's seventh collection of short stories, A Horse and Two Gods and Other Stories. The story presents a comic dialogue between Muni, a poor Tamil speaking villager, and a wealthy English speaking businessman from New York. They are engaged in a conversation in which neither can understand each other's language. With humor, R.K. Narayan explores the conflicts between the rich and poor, between Indian and Western culture. So the story begins in a small, remote village of Kritam, which is described as tiny and poverty-stricken with only few houses. Muni, an elderly villager, he lives there in the extreme poverty with his wife. His life revolves around simple daily routine like grazing with his two weak goats. Muni once he had a large herd of sheep and goats, but his fortunes really deceived him. Now he's left only with the two goats and depends on his wife for survival. On the day the story begins, one day his wife sends him out to, as usual, his wife sends him out to graze the gods and demands that he should bring home some ingredients for the dinner. He doesn't have money, So Muni hopes to barter some old items which is turned away at the local shop. So when Muni is grazing his goats near an old horse statue by the village main road, a car pulls up and an American tourist steps out. So he usually sits near this old horse statue, and an American tourist, he comes there by car. The car stops here. The American is wealthy. He's dressed in khaki, speaks only English. Muni, who knows no English, speaks only Tamil. Both of them gets engaged in a very comical conversation with a lot of misunderstandings. The American is fascinated by the ancient horse statue, and mistakenly he thinks that Muni is the owner of the statue and he thinks it is for sale. The statue is a traditional piece of Indian culture which symbolizes the heritage, but the American sees this something like an exotic artifact. He thinks it's for sale. Muni assumes the American is asking to buy. Muni assumes that this American would like to buy his gods. So he talks about his life, village, and his struggles. American thinks that he's describing the statue. They fail to understand each other, but they maintain a kind of a politeness, an appearance of politeness. Let us see what happens with this misunderstanding. So the American offers Muni 100 rupees, thinking he's buying the statue. He says that I offer 100 rupees, I want to buy the statue. Muni, he does not understand. He thinks that this man is giving him money to buy his two gods. So he's very happy and he accepts money and he leaves the gods while the American makes some arrangement to transport this statue in his car, right? Muni returns home with the money and proudly tells his wife that he sold the gods to a foreigner. However, his wife, knowing the gods are still alive, accuses him of lying. Meanwhile, the American, who is not aware of the misunderstanding, prepares to take the statue as a prize possession. So he decides to take the statue and he starts taking the statue and he just keep the statue on his car. And here Moni's wife, she says that no, you are telling a lie. You have brought money from some other way. Your gods are still alive. So here we find this charming story which offers both humor and depth. Through Muni's interaction with the American, R.K. Narayan explores the themes of cultural clash, poverty, complexities of human communication. The story's humor arises from the characters' inability to understand each other, yet it conveys the challenges of bridging the cultural divides. That's about the lesson number 3. Now we are moving to the lesson number 4, Jenks Whiskers by famous writer, famous prominent writer who is famous for the genre of Old Southwest humor, Solomon Franklin Smith. Now, what is this story about? Jenks Whiskers is a humorous short story which highlights human vanity and the clever manipulation of pride. The story revolves around Jenks, who is a very vain and flamboyant man who takes a lot of pride in his extravagant whiskers. When he jokingly agrees to sell them to a shrewd narrator for $50, it leads to a series of humorous and satirical events. The narrator delays claiming his property, causing Jenks public embarrassment, especially when he's forced to appear in half-shaved state before a crowd. Eventually, Jenks buys back the rights to his whiskers at double the price, demonstrating how vanity can be exploited for profit. Let's try to understand the story in simple words here with some headings. Jenks is introduced as a very vain and very flamboyant individual who is proud of his appearance, Ghamand. He he wears stylish clothing, jewelry, and meticulously maintained whiskers, which are his pride and joy. The narrator meets Jenks at a broker's office where with some conversation, the remark about selling stocks, and this kind of remark leads to a joke of selling his whiskers. He asks, "Why don't you sell your whisker?" Surprisingly, Jenks agrees to sell his whiskers for $50, and the narrator drafts a format bill of sale. He makes a bill. This sets the stage of humorous situation. He makes a bill that he's buying whiskers for $50. That shows a kind of humor here. Jenks jokingly asks the narrator when he will claim the whiskers. He asks him that when will you take it back? The narrator humorously delays and advises Jenks to care for them. The narrator says that, okay, I can take it any time, but you need to take care of them. Over the time, the town becomes aware of the unusual transaction. People mock Jenks, referring to his whiskers as the narrator's property. People say that, look, it's not a property, it is a property of Jenks. So before a grand ball means party, where Jenks is a manager, the narrator decides to harvest his purchase. So the narrator thinks that it's the right time to buy his whiskers to get his whiskers back. He calls Jenks to a barber's shop and asks for the whiskers to be shaved off. Jenks hesitates, trying to delay the event, but reluctantly agrees. After one after one whisker is removed, the narrator changes his mind and he decides to leave the other whisker intact. He says that let the other whisker be remain like this. This creates a very ludicrous scene with Jenks leaving only one whisker left, half shaved. The crowd burst into laughter. Jenks becomes desperate to remove the remaining whisker also. Jenks, who is humiliated, he offers to buy back the rights to his whiskers. Now the narrator says that I want $100, double the original price. After much pleading, after much request, Jenks pays the amount and the barber shaves off the remaining whisker. So what happens further? The narrator cleverly profits from the situation while highlighting Jang's vanity and the absurdity of his pride in his whiskers. And what we understand, Jang's whiskers is a famous satirical story that uses wit and irony to highlight the folly of vanity through the absurd deal and its consequences. The story provides a light-hearted commentary on human pride and cleverness of those who can turn into an advantage. So that's about lesson number 4. Now we are moving to lesson number 5, The Model Millionaire. It's written by famous author who was born in Ireland, Wilde. Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde's Model Millionaire is a charming story about the unexpected rewards of kindness. It follows the story of Huggy Erskine, a good natured but financially struggling young man who unknowingly shows generosity to a disguised millionaire. This light hearted narrative is filled with humor and warmth, which reminds us that even small acts of compassion can lead to a life changing surprise. How? Hughie is a handsome and charming young man, but he does not have financial stability. He has tried many professions, but he failed to succeed any one of them. He lives on a very modest allowance from an aunt, and he struggles with his limited sources. Hughie is deeply in love with Laura Merton, the daughter of a retired colonel. Although the colonel likes Hughie, he refuses to approve their marriage until Hughie secures a fortune of 10,000 £10,000. Hughie visits his friend Alan Trevor, a successful painter, in his studio. Trevor is painting a life-size portrait of an old beggar who is posing as the model. Moved by the influence or attracted by the beggar's pitiable appearance, Hughie gives him a sovereign, a pound coin, despite his own limited means, though he does not have much money. In spite of that, with his generosity, he offers £1 coin to the beggar. Unaware of the beggar's true identity, Hughie leaves after Trevor. He leaves after then. He leaves after Trevor steps out for a while. Later, Trevor reveals to Hughie that the beggar is not poor, but actually he's a Baron Horsburgh, one of the wealthiest men in Europe. Baron had commissioned Trevor. Baron has given a job to Trevor to paint him in the guise of a beggar as an artistic whim. He wants his picture as a beggar, so that's the reason that he was seated as a beggar and he had given him one coin. But though Baron is a wealthiest person in Europe, Hugh is mortified to learn that he unknowingly gave charity to a millionaire. He felt sad, oh my god, I wasted £1 coin. Trevor finds the situation very amusing and assures Hughie that the Baron was quite pleased with his gesture. The next day, Hughie receives a sealed envelope from Baron Horsburgh containing a check for £10,000 as a wedding gift for Hughie and Laura. The check is signed from an old beggar acknowledging Hughie's kind-heartedness. With the £10,000, Hughie is able to marry Laura. Ellen Trevor serves as a best man at the wedding, and the Baron Horsburgh attends, making a speech. Trevor humorously remarks on the rarity of millionaire models and model millionaires. So this is how the story Model Millionaire shows the value of genuine generosity and kindness, emphasizing that the true wealth lies in the character rather than material possessions. Now we are moving to the lesson number 6 on habits. It's an essay by A.G. Gardiner, a famous English journalist and author. The essay on habits by Alfred George Gardiner shows the profound impact of habits on human life. So he uses some personal experiences, some historical references, and few examples, and he shows how habits simplify our daily routines, save our mental effort, and sometimes bring some chaos also. However, he cautions against the dependency on habits, showing the importance of adaptability and independence. So, this essay is a thoughtful reflection on the balance between the convenience of habits and the need for flexibility in the life. So, Gardiner describes his struggle to write with a fountain pen. Now, he's showing his habit. So A.G. Gardiner, he describes his struggle to write with a fountain pen, which is a departure from his usual use of pencil. So generally he used to write with pencil. Now he's struggling to write with fountain pen. So his dependency on the pencil shows how deeply ingrained habits can affect the performance. Second impact of habit, he says habits simplify life by automating the routine task, saving time and mental energy. Gardiner shows Gardiner mentions the forming habits like hanging his coat on a specific peg, which brought order to an otherwise chaotic situation. Means to say sometimes your habits can bring a good change, like you hang your coat at a regular place instead of throwing here and there. Scott's school story. Gardiner recalls Sir Walter Scott's story of a school rival who lost his top position after Scott cut off the boy's habit forming button. The boy used to keep his hands at the button and he used to say the answers. And but what Walter Scott did, he just removed the button and now the boy is unable to answer. This highlights how dependence on small habits can disrupt the confidence and the performance level when the habit is broken. Then another example of Mr. Balfour. Mr. Balfour, who is also has a habit of holding his lapels, coat lapel, while speaking, and struggled when wearing a uniform without lapels. So generally, he used to speak very nicely whenever he used to wear the coat, and he used to hold the lapels. And now he's wearing uniform, he's unable to speak properly. So his hands wandered here and there, which shows how breaking habits can cause discomfort even for the skilled individuals also. What are the positive aspects of habits? Habits simplify decision making and they reduce the stress in life. They help maintain order and efficiency. How Mr. Gardiner has shown his routine with a pencil. What is a caution against the over dependency? While habits are helpful, but they should not become crutches that disempower us when disrupted. Flexibility and the ability to adapt to new situations are also equally important. So, what's the conclusion? A.G. Gardiner revolves his writing issue by reverting to his habitual pencil, showing the comfort and the productivity habits provide. He humorously concludes by presenting his essay as a result of this resolution. He says that by writing this pencil, I have written this essay because this was my productive habit. Now we are moving to the last lesson of this syllabus for semester B.Sc. We should all be feminist. It's an excerpt by the speech by Ngozi Adichie. Ngozi Adichie, a Nigerian writer. This is a modified version of a talk Adichie discovered in December 2012 at TEDx Austin, a yearly conference focused on Africa. In this speech, she argues that we must challenge long held beliefs and gender stereotypes that perpetuate inequality between men and women. She highlights the need for a cultural shift to achieve gender equality and outlines the way in which we can all contribute to this change. So, the speaker shares a childhood story where her teacher made the class monitor position excluding to boys, reinforcing the idea that certain roles are reserved for males. This highlights how social norms shape gender expectations from an early age. So, reflecting on her early teaching experience, Adichie discusses how women feel pressured to downplay their femininity to be taken seriously. She regrets wearing a manly suit, wishing she had been confident enough to express herself as an authentic self. Adichie emphasizes that feminism addresses the specific gender inequalities which women face, not just human rights in general. She also advocates for acknowledging gender-based discrimination and addressing it directly. She criticizes how societal norms stifle boys' emotional expression and encourage narrow definitions of masculinity. Boys are often pressured to prove their masculinity through financial means, leading to fragile egos and emotional suppression. Adichie highlights how society teaches women to shrink themselves to accommodate the fragile egos of men. Women are often conditioned to limit their ambition or success to avoid threatening male counterparts. So there's a call for change. Adichie advocates for a change in how both boys and girls are raised to break free from restrictive gender norms. She urges everyone to embrace feminism to work toward a more equal society. So this excerpt from Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's "We Should All Be Feminist" reflects her insights on gender, societal expectations, and the need for equality. Through her personal experiences and the cultural observations, She highlights the pervasive influence of gender roles on both women and men. She discusses the challenges of being a woman in a patriarchal society, the harmful stereotypes imposed on men, and the significance of embracing feminism as a movement for equity, her engaging her equity, right, for equity. So this is how we complete here all the 7 lessons. So friends, in single video I have tried to sum up all the 7 lessons in single video. And please do comment, like the video, subscribe the channel. If you have not yet subscribed the channel, please do subscribe, and also find the grammar videos links in the description box. So friends, thank you so much for watching.